Hi, hi everyone. Good afternoon and evening, depending or morning, depending on your time zone. But yeah, it's happy to be back again for this meetup, the April edition, where we're going to be discussing testing, right? And we have our speaker already here with us. Yeah, so but just some quick rules before we start. Similar to last time, just to ensure that it's a bit orderly. If you have any question or if you have any question or comment on what is going to be discussed, because this session is actually going to be the moderator literally asks a question and everybody deliberates on it. So it's not like somebody's giving an entire speech, but it's more of everybody talking about what they believe or what the different ways they write tests or what they believe about it or how they feel it should be done, and just basically trying to see different ways to optimize our code and actually write better tests. So if you want to make any comment along the way, please do well by typing in the keyword comments in the section, in the comment section below, in the chat section below. And if you have any question, feel free to also write that question, and then I'll be the person to alert you, and then you can now enable your audio and speak. Also, just to ensure that there is no different diversion, if you could please also mute yourself when you're not speaking, that would be great. Yeah, just so that we don't waste too much time today, we may skip introduction. But then probably we'll find a different way for all of us to engage with ourselves and get to know each other. Yes. Yeah, so somebody went on sabbatical leave for some seconds. So just to reiterate about the polls again before he's back, we're going to be, like, the poll is just more like a feedback about this meetup, and I'm going to launch it towards the end of this meetup so that we could just, and I'm going to also announce the time, right? So that we can actually just all impute our answers, and that feedback actually helps us to look for better topics to discuss, to know just the things you people will actually want to listen to or what they want to hear, so that we can actually keep on creating value for everybody coming to this community. Yes, that's enough of me talking so much. Yeah, does anybody have any question, any contribution before the speaker comes back? And before I forget, if you can afford to turn on your video, that would be great. Nice to see real faces and not, so we'll be sure if we're talking with robots or hackers or different other things. Like Isaac puts on his and Khalid, yeah, that's nice. We get to see the real faces of people behind the scenes of the major apps that currently running around the world. Yeah. Yeah, and just one other thing. I know I recently, as you all know, this community is more of a community that is aims at being driven by itself. So we're not looking for unique speakers. We're not looking for anything out of the ordinary. We're literally looking for what we currently, well, what we're looking for are people that have different experiences building things on Android and are just willing to share those things. Some of those things may not be really big to fit into a blog post, right? But then those little things are actually things that could actually help us improve our code base, help us improve the way we even think or think about our logic. And so those are those single things you do every day. You can be writing code today and you fall into an issue, and then it takes you a bit of a couple of hours to fix it. But then coming to share that your experience with us, no matter how small it may be, is very valuable because of it's going to cut. If somebody has that problem in the future, it's actually going to reduce the time the person is going to take to fix it. And that's the aim of the community, for us to help each other, share ideas and grow. So there's going to be a call for speaker list. People, so if you have any of these things that you learn during the week or during the month or during the day, just kindly fill it up, and then we'll draft a way to see how you could share these ideas. Your talk can be as minimal as 5 minutes to 40 minutes. So there's no like really duration. There's no like a fixed set of duration. But then we really want to encourage everybody to speak. And then an advantage of speaking in such a community is that we're small, right? So you get to, and most of us actually know each other. So you get to, it's more like you're talking to your friends. If you make the mistake, nobody's going to know anything, right? Because everybody can make mistakes. Mistakes are unavoidable. And then you actually get to grow because of the feedback that we collect at the end of the meetup is actually being shared to you anonymously. So you actually know different points you can improve on. And then when they call you to give a talk at DroidCon Lagos or at DroidCon New York or Google I/O, you'll be much more confident giving this type of talk. Yeah, so welcome back, Belvi. We're waiting for you. And I think we can start with the talk. Yes, over to you, Belvi.
All right. Thank you, Shuzava. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, my face was a little bit dull earlier. I just woke up. It's still very early here. And like Shuzava mentioned already, is actually going to be a discussion. It's actually going to be like more of like answer questions we have to like discuss. It's not actually a section where I get to talk about testing all alone. All right. As a matter of fact, I don't intend sharing anything. What I have are just a series of questions. It should be conversational as much as possible. You know, like everybody needs to share what you know about testing, what you've done about testing, the current way you probably test your project, personal project, company project, and all of that. I'll say, bottom line, let's build it. Let me just be like a foundation. So testing your app is it's actually very important. I know a lot of developers that really don't test the application, and I wouldn't say when I started development, it wasn't really my strength. It wasn't something that I had to do. You know, it had to like, take discipline, and you know, after seeing series of bugs that would have been caught during development, you know, if it was probably tested after seeing series of this scenario in production, I realized that testing is actually very important, especially when you keep, you know, like building in features. You need to be sure that one, what currently works has not stopped working, and number two, your code actually behaves as intended on all platforms. So you know, Android is actually like a fragmented ecosystem. You know, you have it's quite different entirely. It's very different from the iOS ecosystem entirely because there's a lot to actually like bother about. There's different types of tests. You know, compatibility, unit testing. You want to be sure that it performs well. Tests where you check for usability, check for compatibility, performance, and all of that. But we'll be going over that during this section. You know, but the basic advantages that testing provides for you includes, you know, rapid feedback. You can easily get like feedback just to be sure that your code works the way it should work. And we'll be, during the course of this section, we'll actually be discussing about how you prefer to test your app. Do you test the UI layer separately? Do you test your model separately? Do you test everything together? You know, like how it actually like helps you to write better code. You know, another advantage of testing is early failure detection, safer code refactoring, and stable development velocity. But let's get started. So the first question on the floor today is what testing really is. Is there anybody that want to like share from their own perspective, point of view, what do you think testing is actually about?
For me, I would say it's just basically cross-checking that your functionality works at different edge cases.
Okay.
Your business logic. basically.
Okay. Sorry, who's talking? Is it Shizoba?
Chizoba, yes.
All right. Any other person? Victor?
Yeah, so for me, it is basically knowing that a piece of software works as it is intended to work, right? So if I write a software to calculate, to add two numbers, test is basically making sure the software adds two numbers correctly. So making sure is testing basically ensuring that a piece of software does what is intended to do. Yeah.
Okay. So is there any other person that wants to like contribute to this? Feel free, guys. So I have another question based on the answers that was provided. The question should be: do you write tests to ensure that your code pass, or you write tests to ensure that your code fails? Anyone? Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. So I think it depends. Yeah, actually, we should be writing tests to ensure. Most times, like the default, I would say our default, what they call it, the default thing we actually want to achieve is to ensure that it passes, right? But basically, it's ensure you're writing your test and ensuring that your test passes. But basically, um, I think maybe that's why the TDD, or maybe that's a different thing, right? But then it's actually a good thing if we write tests to ensure that our code will fail, so that we can actually ensure that and if we write tests to ensure that our codes fail, it means that we're literally checking out different edge cases that our main implementation has not really checked out.
All right.
Yeah. So in addition to what you have said, basically we write tests. For me, as a rule of thumb, my test is not yet working if it doesn't fail too. So because if we are not likely to fail, it means we might have false positive, right? We think it is passing and then it is not really doing what it's meant to do. So as a rule of thumb, a test should test for two scenarios: when it is meant to pass and when it is meant to fail. Then we are sure that we are not just doing a test that is always giving us false positive and all. Yeah.
Thank you, Emmanuel. For me, if anybody has anything to say, you can say contribute. But for me, I think the way I see testing is about edge cases, right? Like you should actually cover what you would probably not have thought about during like implementation, right? It's actually like testing actually depends, like the definition actually depends on what you're actually like looking out for, what you're trying to like test against, right? Like like you mentioned, there are like different type of tests, but writing test cases actually differ from the purpose of you writing that test. For instance, if you are doing like unit testing, you probably just want to test a particular function, or probably want to test a particular flow to see if it actually performs the action, or if actually perform the action it's meant to like carry out. But that particular use case actually change when you move to instrumentation tests, or usability tests. All right, yeah, it actually changes from does it work to like in what particular scenario should this thing actually fail. All right, so it actually depends on for me it actually depends on what you are testing against. Different types of testing, like if you across different domains, they're actually like different types of testing. All right, like if you are building for web, yeah, there are certain type of tests that you have to like consider that's actually not being considered in Android. But for the scope of what we are talking about today, because we are talking about Android like development on mobile and Android specifically, yeah, like few type of testings that I know that exist. They can be more, but the list is actually like if you keep doing more research, you start stumbling upon like more different tests that you've never even heard of. For me, like it actually like depends on the scope of your project, right? If you have like a project if you have like an app or a project that is local, I think there are certain type of tests that you shouldn't be bothered about. But when it gets to a point where maybe you are working for a company like a multinational company that runs that their update is being rolled out in maybe 3 to 4 different countries, you begin to realize that the scope of your test actually changes, and you start like encountering tests that you wouldn't have encountered on a normal day, even in your side project, right? So there are a few that I have on my list. One is functional test. I don't know if you want to talk about it. Probably if you can share what type of test do you think exists, maybe from your personal project that you've been working on, from your contributions at work. What type of test do you think exists, and why do you think this test is actually like relevant? I think that's the question to the general house. Is my question understandable?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, hello?
Isaac, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So your question is actually understandable. So for me, of course, the king of them all is unit testing, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, even on the testing pyramid, you see that it has over 50% almost all the time, really. 60, some even give it 70, and the rest of the other tests. So unit testing, which is basically testing your core logic and all those view model classes and those business logic classes, really, that are responsible for the core logic of the application. And then I also love the idea of integration tests. I want to see how those components fit together. When I say, hey, I'm loading the data and I need you to actually display a loader. So I need the view model actually like letting the UI know that it's time to actually display data. So to display a loading bar and stuff like that. So the integration is important for me, like how those components actually communicate together. That's the way I understand it. So I mean, yeah, unit integration, UI, man, not so much. So yeah, I'm going to stop there.
Thank you. So Isaac actually like gave us 3 types of tests. Anybody else wants to like contribute? Thank you very much for that wonderful answer and feedback. Anybody? Do I have to start calling names? The ones I can see on my screen. Noel, do you want to give it a try?
Sorry, quick one. I have a question. Can somebody like explain this integration test in like a very layman's definition?
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, somebody go.
Anybody is fine.
Yeah, somebody. I would have loved to say something, but somebody else should go.
Sure.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes, Victor.
Okay, my name is Victor. So, in my own opinion, I think integration testing is a stage of software testing whereby individual software components are combined together and tested as a group. You are testing the flow from one module to another module to another module. So it's like combined testing with different modules. That's my opinion.
Okay, that makes sense. I hope we'll see how that works in Android today, though. Or we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Hello.
Can I say something though?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, my name is Abdulrazak. So I don't know, but when I think about integration testing, right, it's say for instance we have a situation where we are building an app, we have the view model, we have the repository, right? So by integration testing, we're actually testing how our repository is communicating with the view model and how the view model is actually using the data that is getting, right? So that is can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so that is quite different from when you are testing a particular function in which is unit testing in the app. So I think the communication, the movement of data from one class to another, that is and how they communicate. That is what integration testing is all about. how they integrate with one another. I don't want to use that word, but breaking it down is how they actually collaborate and do the job together. That's what we want to test for integration testing.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So can I say something?
Yeah, sure, you
Alright.
can.
Yeah. So I want to be a little bit more direct. I say okay. So for instance, in the init block of my view model, I've made the call to the repository to get me data.
Okay.
Now, when I make that call to the repository, I also post some observable boolean on which my UI is observing that show a loading bar that at this point in time I'm loading data. So some sort of loading animation. So now in that scenario, there are three components like the other speaker spoke about that are involved now. So there's an integration between three components. So first of all, I want to be sure that the view model is getting initialized. Number one, that's the first component. Now the second component, when that view model is initialized, does it actually make a call to the repository to get data? That's the second component. Then the third component is at the same time as that view model gets initialized, does it actually post some observable boolean which the UI is observing that look, show some sort of loading animation. So there are three components interacting or being integrated together at that point in time. So I want to test that scenario where there's a flow to those components all together at the same time. So yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Is there anything else somebody wants to say? Is there anybody else wants to say something? That wants to say something? All right, from what I actually like noted and jotted down, and this actually from like personal experience. One thing that testing does, especially integrated testing, is that it helps you reflect on if your current implementation will provide a good experience, right? Or if it's the right way to actually like do it. For example, if you set up your module or your function or your implementation in a way that it is tightly coupled, or in a way that is difficult, it's not so, the experience is not so great, because even when building when building for this, you're not building for users, right? For developers, when you're building a tool that has to be reused by other people, this is one part of testing that actually actually becomes a priority. You want to be sure that people like other team members or somebody else elsewhere that we eventually get to like use that part of your application does not find it like difficult passing the necessary values, or does not find it like difficult like reusing what you've implemented, right? So integration testing actually allows you like reflect on your approach to see if what you've implemented is like a good entry point, if it can easily integrate into like other parts of the software or other part of the requirement that the developer is working on. I don't know if I make sense. That's just from my personal experience and from what I have taken out of, from what I took out of what everybody has said. All right, we have to like move forward to the next question. But obviously there is functional testing. Like Isaac said, unit testing is paramount. Like it's something that is very important in our day-to-day projects. All right, it's something that you should do. Like if you don't do extensive testing at all, at least you should do unit testing at all. All right, I also like subscribe to that viewpoint. There's usability testing, compatibility testing. We can't go into this in details. There's performance and load testing. Obviously, when you start building for large audience across the world, this is the testing that that will actually like come to play. You want to like actually bother about how it performs on different devices. It's very important, especially in Android, where you have different OEMs, like and different memory usage, and it's actually varies. A lot of security testing, localization testing, which you might probably not even like have to bother about, except maybe you are targeting different audience in like different markets, or when you're targeting a global market. That's when this comes into play. But as you can see that there a lot of testings that are hard there. But the good thing is as you keep progressing, as you keep building for larger audience, different audience, you get to know about this test. There are tools and equipment that actually allows you perform this test, better even in our Android ecosystem. So the next question on the floor is how often do we do each of the testing? So for the testing that has been mentioned, we mentioned unit testing, integration testing, UI testing. The question right now is for these three testings that we've mentioned and we've outlined, how often do we do each of them? I think it's a question to reflect on and share. Anybody? Hello? Can everybody hear me?
Hello.
Yes, you can.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So how often should we do each test?
Yeah.
So I think Google itself has given us like a breakdown, like a pyramid for the percentage of the test that we should do. So starting from the unit tests, and the unit test should be like about 60%. Then our integration test should be about 30%. Then our end-to-end test should be 10%. So 60% of all our testing, we should make sure that we focus more on the unit test. Then the other 30% should be integration, and the other 10 should be end-to-end. That's what I can say.
Why is that nobody is mentioning UI testing?
Much work.
Yeah.
All right.
I think with end-to-end test is also UI testing, I guess, right?
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, it's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. UI should be part of it.
Also, just to add, okay, sorry, you're saying something.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to reiterate on Belvis' question. Is it are you asking based on the percentage of tests that we should accommodate for our apps, or how often do we actually do it in our real jobs or in our personal projects?
Question is how often do we do it in our real job or personal projects, or do you even do it at all? I can start by saying personally, in my personal project, I hardly do UI testing.
Okay, but you do regular.
I hardly do it.
Other one.
Yeah, unit testing. Yeah, it's fine. But UI testing, personally, I feel is sometimes just an overkill. Yeah. But it's important, especially when you are working with larger teams or working with a company that actually takes it very serious. Yeah, but personally, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, true.
So, sorry, if I may ask, can I ask the question? Sorry, I don't know if you're done.
No, sure, you can.
Okay, so with UI testing, is it possible for UI testing to cover things like how this view is going to look like maybe in the portrait or landscape or some other device screen sizes? Is it possible to cover all those things too? For UI
testing? It depends. I can remember there was a section that we had, was it one of the first sections we had on this group? It was something around the screenshot, right? If I can remember. Yeah, I think that was a very it's also like an example of UI testing, and there are already I think Firebase has test kits that allows you to UI test extensively, but it's not free. I don't think it's free. Last time I tried it, I think they bid me like $10. It was expensive, but it actually covers if that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Is there anybody? Anything?
And so to answer your question, I would say basically, yeah, building. I think at the start, we probably don't focus on tests a lot because of the importance may not really look very evident. But then as you grow bigger, and then you start releasing, and you see you need to release features faster to the public, and then you see that with every release, you're having regressions, that's when you will know that there's actually need for testing, right? And so
Yes,
you
that's very
start
true.
adding those things bit by bit. But then I don't know how complex along it can be really be complex along the way if you start a bit late or if you don't really have. And I also think the structure of our apps really determines how the test can actually work positively, right? And
Yeah,
that's why sometimes, despite TDD is very hard, I hope we'll talk about this later on in the session. It's somehow advisable if you actually want your code base to be testable, you start from that approach. Because most times
yeah,
you tend to find yourself writing you write your logic and then you're testing and it looks like you literally just rewrote your logic again, right?
yeah.
um, and that's why I'm a bit positive for the case of TDD, although it can be very tedious, because that gives us, I think, it even helps structure our code better in a way that it gives us some strict patterns on responsibilities of our methods or responsibilities of how the logic should really flow.
That makes sense. That makes sense. That's true. For that, it's actually when I started doing testing extensively, I actually began to see why it is important to separate your logic from your views. You know, before, like if someone asks you a question like why should you separate your views from your model and all of that, the best question I think you can possibly give to person is makes it very easy to test, because it can be very like annoying, like tedious to actually write tests that are like that are dependent on Android context and all of that. The app needs to start with probably need to like provide a fake context and all. But if you like with testing actually helps you like structure your code better, like decouple it properly so that it can be easy for you to test, because sometimes you are trying to like test a particular part of the application and you realize, wow, this is so difficult to test. And then you move back to the implementation and try to like decouple it down in a way that it is easier to test each segment. So, like testing actually helps us write better code, right? That's another thing. It helps us write better code and helps us like actually separate our views from our logic properly, like following the MVVM or MVM paradigm. So there are a couple of other questions, but we've already like answered these questions even while having the conversation. So I'm going to move to this. Do we really need this? Since apps with a lot of users tend to be stable without testing. I mean, a few of us are probably few of us are probably.
Please pardon me.
That's fine. It's okay.
It's fine.
Free.
I just love this question. Actually.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I hope everybody gets to comment on this. I know like a few of us are probably like victims, or like are probably culprits to this questions. You roll that out without testing. Like if you go to the testing folder, this example dot, it's just empty, nothing else there. But you roll it out, you just do your personal testing. They work. Push it like that, and apparently it works, man. No bug, everything's stable. So you're asking yourself, why do we really need this? Question.
Then if you launch it to a larger crowd and you check Firebase Crashlytics, you start wondering where X, Y, Z.
So I think when test is very much more effective is when you are doing TDG. TDG is when you write your test before you write your code, right? So you'll have thought of scenarios, test cases and stuff like that, and right. But eventually, when you video app before you start writing tests, I don't know, maybe you're just only testing for what you have already built, right? That's basically what some people do, right? So except you're practicing TDD, you will really see the effects of writing a test for your application.
Okay. Nice. Noted.
Yeah, but okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So I laughed. I laughed initially because
Alright.
um, yeah, because I'm a huge victim of this. So so I think first of all you have to really have a need to actually test, right? You have to get to that point. If you don't see the reason why you are actually testing, then it's actually going to be difficult for you to actually write tests. I say this because I no need to mention names, but I've related with some guys that I have huge respect for, that I actually look up to, and then when the conversation of unit testing actually comes on board, like I was very amazed at the responses I got. Like I got something like, "What's that? What's unit? What's that? What do you mean by that?" So I'm like, wow. So I mean, so first of all, you have to it has to be obvious to you why you should actually test, and then it is not immediately obvious because number one, the environment where you are working, for instance, your company is not big on unit tests, number one, and then number two, you are not dealing with. I mean, like Chizoba mentioned earlier, by the time you need to ship out features like frequently to users, and then there's a lot of regression and feedback on bugs, and then you start to see why you should actually test. So two things actually. Number one, your environment where you're working is not big on it or doesn't even know what it is. Start with number one. Then number two, you have not been put in that scenario where you are shipping to really big user really large user bases where those features are actually critical or usable. I use a lot of apps where I've not even explored like 50% of the functionality. So those features you are shipping out, they are really, really needed, and then you are shipping to a lot of users. So it will become obvious to you that, man, I need to really be sure of what I'm shipping out. Then except you have a good reason to test, you might have accumulated like 10 years experience and you are still not a tester.
I will just drop something before I ask a question based on the response from Duro Somo. Sorry if I didn't pronounce it well, but I hope I'm right. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? And when I actually saw this, I realized that wow, maybe we shouldn't really feel bad after all when it comes to testing. I think it was 2 days ago. 2 days ago, yes, on Thursday. Like, I don't know if anybody noticed, if you were using an app that actually has a Google Map on it, it was crashing. Did anyone notice that? From Uber to like it was global. So apparently, I think Google rolled out an update, and it affected all Maps application. If you open Uber app, it crashed immediately. If you open Uber Eats, it crashed immediately. If you open Lyft, it crashes immediately. Like every app that you have that we're using Map. I didn't even know because my experience was on Uber Eats. I think then I actually placed an order on Uber Eats, and I was trying to open the app. Like the app that was working just 2 seconds ago, it was crashing. Like you open it, you close, you open it, you close. I have to go to the web to actually like follow up my order. It was later on in the day that it was trending that like somebody actually like submitted a ticket or issue, and it was actually like a P1 issue that Google Maps were crashing on all apps that are using Google Maps. So you see, like even with some of these companies that we look up to, sometimes they roll out something without testing properly. So they shouldn't really feel, yeah. So the next thing should be, I like what Drew almost said. He said something like, you write a test before the implementation. So I want to ask, like, how many of us actually has that discipline to, like, TDD, for me it's nice, but I feel why should I be writing the test before implementing this stuff? You do understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How many should you write your test before or after implementing it? I think that should be a question before you move forward.
Okay, I want to say something as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so to reiterate on what the previous speaker talked about, so I would say it also depends on the company you are working in. Let's say, but now I've worked in a company where, like, first of all, you're inheriting a legacy code, and the legacy code there is no single test, like a whole lot of codes with no single test at all. Then you need to release features. The company needs they just care about the business. You need to go live. You need to go live. Release this feature. You get so at the end of the day, you
Yeah.
just churn out features sharply and just do your own test. So one good thing is that most of these companies have QA guys. So the QA guys' work is more of just maybe just testing, tapping the app to ensure everything is working fine. So, but the thing is that at the end of the day, those of these apps are already on Play Store and a lot of users using it, and it's fairly stable, per se. So, at some point, you're like, do you really need this test? Like again, like you start asking that kind of question. They now look at the kind of work you have to do. I mean, so I start writing tests again about from this legacy code. So you see, like, it can be very, very like tiring. Sometimes you just give up and just more. You just write this thing the way it is. Get so, but I would say that for me, TDD, I don't really do TDD per se. Like, I don't know why would I like
It's
seems
fine. It's fine.
somehow
Be free. Be free. It's fine.
to just write your test before you start implementing the functionality. Like, so just I don't know. I was using that thing was a web stuff, this web guy.
Exactly.
So this is what they do. That's what I'm saying. Mobile guys do. So, but anyway, currently things have changed a lot for me, So being a company that kind of values a lot of testing, so you see that at least when everything is modular and you have to you're using clean code architecture, you have to test maybe your data source, your domain, your use cases, all those things. So, but frankly, personally, I don't do TDD before I implement my stuff. That's just my
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, sure.
okay, so I have a point, like I have a perspective to really need to test. So when we look at it, business has a way of saying, even if you don't test, the app will still be okay because we have QA testers, right? Where before we deploy the app, the QA guys test and make sure that it's working. But I will still say we still need to test, even though the app seems to be stable, because with test to me is more about maintainability of, right? Maintainability of the code in the sense that if developers don't test, so that's the reason why if you go to some code base and you are new there, you can easily break things because you don't even know what to do that will break things, or you don't know if you modify this, what will happen at all. So the blame or we as developers are still the one that will like bear the consequence, because business will always have a way to make sure whatsoever you push is okay by using QA tester. But we the developers still need to know that if you are working on a code base that is not well testable or that is not well tested, you will still have to like bear the brunt later on, because probably you want to modify something, you see that it's breaking every other thing. But if you have a good test, you can easily figure out this is failing and this is what you need. So I think we still really need to test, because I've entered some code bases before where you don't even know what to do because it is not well tested. You are afraid of touching a particular part of the code because if you touch it, it might break everything. But if the code is well tested, then it will be well maintainable because you can easily go there and change things. If you break the code, if you break the test, you just have to like look for the way to fix the test. Yeah.
Yeah. So also just to add, I'm going to like comment on the question on the screen and also TDD. So do we really need to test? Most times it looks like it's not needed, right? Because actually your apps do work and without having tests, right? It goes through the QA team or they test as much edge cases as they can think of, and then it goes, right? It goes live, and then it has pretty much little issues. But I think there's a time when testing is very efficient, and that is really, really needed, where the importance level grows really high. And that is when you're actually serving more users than expected, and when you're actually having like a whole lot of users. So basically when you're scaling, right, you need tests to ensure that one simple change you make does not break And because of, if anything happens to your large user base, your revenue probably may just go down the drain. So you need to be more cautious as of that time to ensure you're not releasing anything that will have an issue. And a lot of people do percentage rollouts just to be sure that even if they're finished testing themselves, they do beta testing, they do percentage rollouts to ensure that everything, single thing checks out well. Even recently, we did that, and then we noticed a regress issue, right? Which came in during a refactoring. And so it was a very simple thing, but it still passed code review, right? And the bug went into the code. But like those type of things, and that's why there's actually need for testing when you're actually at high scale. And also the aim is that when you're big, you need testing so that you don't lose your customers. No matter how much companies are telling us to release a feature fast, we need to be able to communicate the necessity of why we need to take more time to do our work properly. Because I believe they hired us because they felt that we are smart in that area. So we also need to be able to explain to them, they are smart in the business areas, yes, but smart in the tech areas. We need to also find a way. It's very difficult, I know, but I feel we need to find a way to communicate to these people that, hey, we need more time to implement this thing properly so that you don't lose we don't lose our users, because you guys are all in it together. And also, testing is also very important. You see some of these companies, and it's very funny when some companies say that this other company is releasing feature faster. Why can't we do the same thing? If you don't have a proper test pipeline, or if you don't really have like even some things like continuous integration that helps reduce some manual work, those things will surely take time, right? And before some of those things can be set up, those things you need to allocate a whole lot of time to ensure that some of those things are prepared well. And those are the things we need to communicate to these business owners, the necessity for these things. Because if you actually want to release features faster, you can't say you want to release a feature like one new feature, one new bug fix every week without having to, the QA team will now have to go through the entire test script and test every single flow for just that small change. There's a whole lot of manual work that can easily be cut with tests. And if you're using, if you have a proper testing framework, within a couple of minutes, 30 minutes to 1 hour, you're probably, even maybe less than that, you're probably really done all your whole testing, and then you can release. That's why some people release faster than usual. Yeah. And all those things, if you look at it, you still gain, 100% gains in the engineering side and 100% gains in the business side, because you roll out features faster, features that don't fail. And one other advantage for the engineering side is, as was Emmanuel that mentioned, your code doesn't break easily, right? Because the test will probably catch it. If somebody's trying to make a change, even if it's a new onboarder, the person will probably even be a senior person, but may not really understand the entire logic of how the thing works. And also, it may also pass code review. There are chances that those things can pass. And then when it passes, the unit test is also another fallback to help us catch and ensure that, hey, we're not missing anything, right? And I think that leads now to a question. If we feel that there's importance of this testing at a larger scale, maybe not at the beginning stages, but at a larger scale, and we see that it is, if you don't structure your app well, if you don't structure your app well, you tend to write testing in some funny ways, or you tend to not even be able to write tests very well. And so you can say TDD may be a better way to ensure that your code structure is in a way that fits to write tests well. So what if you don't start with TDD and then you go to the higher scale with a regular different structure of code, and then you get to the stage where you need to start writing tests and you find it very difficult to write tests? So now I'm on the fence whether we should always start off writing TDD, because if test is important in future, you probably may want to start with TDD, but in the beginning stage, you don't even know you're going to get to the future. So should you start with that TDD, or should you not? Or should you just wait for the future and then have time to refactor your entire code base?
Okay.
Yeah,
there are two things.
Is that a question?
Yeah, it's an open question for open discussion.
Let me say something. There are two things I noted. The first thing is, so that we don't miss it, is that factor testing into your timeline. Personally, I make that mistake is that when they ask you a question like, how long do you think it should take you to complete this task? I'll just say, 1 day or 2 days. But on the bottom line, on long run, you realize that that timing is actually the time you are going to use to do the work. You are not trying to factor in the testing into your
Testing.
timeline. So try and factor in testing that, okay, you take me 6 hours to work on this. Probably take me 4 hours to test it. So instead of saying it take me 6 hours, take 10 hours for writing and for testing. And also for the question that she's about asked, something about, for me, I feel, what are the downsides of writing a test after the implementation? And one of the major downsides is you are not actually writing tests anymore. You are just writing a test to ensure that your implementation pass. You get, so which actually forfeits the need to actually write tests. You get, that's what I have to say. And then everybody else can. As someone tried to say something before, I think Isaac. Hello.
Yeah. So can you hear me? Yeah.
Sure. Can you?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Please go ahead. Yeah. Please continue.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk. I wanted to say something with respect to the structure of your code. So, I mean, so if you, I use a lot, I try as much as possible to adhere to the solid principles, right? So those principles, they are not about your architecture. They are not about whether it is clean architecture or MVVM or MVP or Viper or anything like that. They are just good coding practices, right? So if you really adhere to solid principles, law of separations, using interfaces, making sure, stuff, passing dependencies and all those things, not using concrete implementations and all those. Basically, summary, solid. If you adhere a lot to solid principles, you find that testing is like very easy for you. For instance, okay, you can look now. I write iOS as well, so in the iOS world, you really don't have all these mocking frameworks. So you write your mocks by hand, right? So you don't have Mockito, you don't have Mocky, you don't have Mockit, you don't have all these things. So you need to write your test you need to write your mocks by hand. And then just imagine not having interfaces, not just everything depending on concrete implementations. Having some private data source classes within your view models or your presenters and stuff like that. How do you start testing those kind of things, really? So solid principles, they really, really go a long way to your testing life as a developer. So I just wanted to add that into it.
Thank you for your contribution. Anybody else wants to say something before I move forward? All right. Okay, so I think the next question should have been this, but we've already discussed this when talking about the previous question. So I think this is a last question. How often do you write tests at work? Not personal projects. Like, do you take that time, discipline to ensure that you write that test? Personally, currently I work with Nestor, and whenever you submit, you have a template whenever you make like a pull request. The template is a summary and test cases. So when you're trying to make a pull request, you summarize what you worked on and you highlight your test cases. All right, so it's actually like a requirement. So for every new item you work on, you should provide test cases. All right, if it is a test case that has already been written before and probably you just updated it, you just try and ensure that you state it. The reason is, whenever I should do your code, you go through your summary and your test case and just try and check if everything makes sense before approving it. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that the bugs, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that there won't be a bug in production, but it kind of to a major extent reduce the amount of production-based bugs that users will actually encounter. Anybody else want to share with us today? Good. Ibrahim, Shike. I think Shike is here. Yes, anything you want to say?
In case you have something
Can I-
to say now, he's a senior guy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Oga.
Yeah, so at work, yeah, first of all, you need to we like to move stuff fast. So yeah, at work we really focus more on the logic, that is unit test when writing tests. So we really discard UI testing because first of all, it depends on how your pipeline is implemented. So if your CI pipeline, QA has their own automation testing, whereby they test the UI, they test the text, they test the button and the rest. So there's really no need for you to actually start writing UI tests as Android engineer in our company. So it's not really that relevant for us. It's just a duplicated work. But QA still try to tell us that, okay, we as mobile dev and QA is like we scratch your back, you scratch mine. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. So in a way, QA is hoping that we write unit tests for anything we push out there, because they see unit tests as very, very key in preventing bugs. And us too, we see QA as, oh, there's no need of writing our UI tests. QA has their own. They focus more on the UI, also the logic, but mainly they look at the proposed design and compare it with what was developed by the engineer. So it's both ways. So you're dependent on the QA on writing on focusing more on the UI test, and QA too is dependent on you on writing your logic, your unit test, and yeah. So and once in a while, when we send your PR, QA is always encouraged to just take a look at the pull request and see what actually changed in the code. So it's not really about so they understand the change better. Though most of our QA engineers, they have engineering background. They know they are QA engineers, so they write their own automation testing. So at times they take a peek at the PR because our Jira ticket is tied to Bitbucket is linked with Jira. So from a ticket, you can know the pull request that was made for that. So the QA engineer can just go there and look at what actually went there and actually whether it's a unit test. Though on our own side too, when we're making a PR, we also ensure that you've written your unit test for that. So yeah, so our focus we focus more on just the logic. UI test is very expensive and it's slow. It takes time, and also it's double work because at the end, QA is going to look at the UI and ensure that everything is fine. So that's it.
All right. Maybe.
I have a comment.
Yeah, sure, you can.
Yeah, so when it comes to how often do we write tests at work, I think it's a function of the company and it's a function of the engineering manager. So I've worked with two companies. One, when Anis was my manager, any ticket at all, you must write test or true. Now I'm in another organization where we only focus on unit tests. And when I look at it, it's just the company that changes, right? It's the engineering manager. When one engineering manager feels like, tests, you should write tests for everything and all. And like rightly say, you have to factor in the time you use for tests in your timeline. My previous engineering manager factor, if you are working on a ticket, you should also estimate the time for writing tests for it. So it means the pressure is not coming to you, developer, because your engineering manager has already told the management that, we here, we write tests, so. Management will not come and meet you directly and say, you guys are slow. The management will go and meet your engineering manager and say, you guys are slow, you need to hasten things. But if your engineering manager can tell them that this is the time we need to do this thing, we need to follow standard process, we need to do this for the sake of the organization, they can convince the company, this is why we're writing tests. You will find out that you always write tests because this is what the engineering manager wants, and the engineering manager has spoken on your behalf when it comes to the management and So for me, how often we write tests is often a case of the engineering manager we have and the company. If the engineering manager truly believes in it, the engineering manager will fight for you to write this, because in most cases we don't even write it because we feel like, we don't have time, we need to do this, we need to do this. But if you have a good engineering manager, the engineering manager will be able to say, no, we need to do things before. So we estimate time for testing too, and or we add it to our timeline and all. So it's just a function of the company and the engineering manager, basically.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I want to agree with the last guy that spoke. So I think the engineering team as a whole has a lot to do with your testing capacity and your testing capabilities. Except you are on a whole different level as an individual developer, right? Your discipline, your testing discipline is really tight. If not, you find it difficult. Like I said earlier, you after 10 years, you still are not a tester. Why? Because you don't have the testing discipline personally. So it's now about your engineering team, about your company actually, to actually groom you in the area of testing. I'll share my experience a little bit. In one previous company, I was reporting to some guy. The guy is a back-end developer. I was actually the only mobile developer there, right? So he's a back-end developer. So nobody is monitoring my pull request. Nobody, I mean, I don't even have to do any pull request. I'm just working on the master branch all the time. And what do they care? When I click this button, does it click? When I make request to this API, does it actually give me that list? You know, so nobody is even looking at testing. And besides, I'm the only mobile developer, so I can really just do what I want. So what happened? I never tested. That's the sorry about that. That's what happened at the end of the day. I never tested. Then I joined a team where we had an engineering manager. Oh God. Sorry again. I joined a team where we had an engineering manager, right? But then the guy was the one guy overseeing backend. He was overseeing front end. He was overseeing the mobile team. He was overseeing the QA, right? This one guy. So, I mean, he doesn't really look at pull requests and stuff like that, right? So in that scenario, if we had like a mobile lead that would then be dedicated to the mobile team and look at those things, right? It was something we were growing. And then, I mean, so a lot has to do with the company culture and your engineering team, actually. You have a key role to play, except your discipline is really tight as an individual developer as regards to testing. If not, then after 10 years, you are still haven't written one test.
And thank you very much for sharing. Chike, before you, anybody else, let me just call one or two persons. Tobe, I think I can see you on my screen. Do you have anything to share?
Sorry.
Oh, wow. Now, Mickey, where you there?
Oh, that's what
okay. Chike, before Tobe quickly comes back, you can chip in your points.
Yeah, so you know, so at times it also boils down to the individual developer being disciplined about the kind of code you write. So, for example, now if you're working on a personal project, you can, you know, when you write unit tests, you have more confidence in your code. Like you are sure that like there's this, I don't know, there's this boost that is given that is in your body whereby like the assurance that you're giving that, oh, this code is that you're writing unit tests, they cover the edge cases and the rest. So this is like from a personal side, not really a company side. And also when you're doing your pull request, you can always review your code. Like now, even if you're in a company and you do code reviews and the rest, it's always advisable for you to do a self-evaluation, do a self-review of your code before you actually start highlighting everybody, because there are a lot of issues that you won't come across and say, oh, why did I want to do this in this way and the rest. So also it boils down to the individual developer. So you can come into a company, like, let's say you individual engineer, you'll be writing unit tests on your own, but you come to a company, you join the company that does not write unit tests. You can try to convince them. That's one way. Try to convince them that, we should really ensure that we write unit tests. And also, even when they tell you, oh, this work needs to be done within 2 days, try to convince them that, oh, it's going to take me like 3 days or so. Though you might not tell them why it's needed or the unit test, because you try convincing them, but you as an engineer, you have that discipline in yourself that, oh, let me try and just write my unit test and just. So it's just about I personally, I believe no company should just come in and just like change your ways, like say don't write unit tests or anything. You can just, because at the end of the day, you're the one doing your code review, you're the one doing your that measuring your code to master. You're the one measuring your code to your master. So at the end, nobody's even looking. The management are not really looking to your code base and see, oh, are you sure? I told not to write unit tests and you've written unit tests, something like that. So it all boils down to your self-discipline and ensure that what you are doing is the right thing. Yeah.
Thank you very much. To be U3 codes, I think Honey, these are people I can see on my screen. You have anything to share? Zidane, Jimo, feel free. Let's talk. Like, how often do you write tests at work? Is there any like work experience on testing that you want to share with everyone?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
I can hear you now. Okay.
Yeah, you're back to it.
Yeah, so I think most of the majority of experience in Nigerian companies is that you don't write tests because management probably doesn't see the need for it yet. So unfortunately, that used to like be the case for us, but I think we finally decided to insist on it this new year, adding tests as part of our timeline for delivering features. And it is taking a lot of convincing to do, but I guess in the end, it's going to work out well for us. So, but I think what we do is we kind of, for now, while we are trying to make it a core part of our culture, is test the seemingly important parts of our code base. So if your code base is modularized, you probably want to test your domain and data layer and your view model. And that may not impact so much on the timeline. So it just means that the developer has to do a little bit more work on his own. And since most of our code bases are probably not tested, so it's a bit of work because you now have to go back and cover up tests for some other features. But yeah, so we're just making that part of our culture now.
Okay. All right, before I continue, there's actually like a poll coming up on Zoom from the team. Please, you can provide feedback. So we have Chigo, Quadri, Jeremiah, Victor, Bello. Anything you'd like to share before we close the section? How often do we write tests at work? All three codes. We again. I think Shoki. Sorry if I didn't pronounce it well. Abdullah Shoki. Anybody?
Or even Zainab.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Okay, so yeah, so for me at work, so actually we dwell more on unit code, just like Chiki said. We spend less time on UI code because UI testing rather because we believe the QA engineer would do that and do it well. So we just focus more on unit testing the logic of our application, and also sometimes I try to do what Chizoba explained, being that following test-driven development, just that sometimes it can be very tedious, but it has an advantage because you basically can think of every test scenario you want to do, how you want to structure your code. Think of everything first before even writing that code. But sometimes the timeline does not permit that, so you just write the code and then after that we do the testing. So for me, when they don't need the feature that immediately I spend some time writing unit testing code, which is majority of the test I write, unit testing. And yeah, there's also a quick shortcut I use on Android Studio. I don't know if everybody's aware. As if you're on your file, like your view model, your repository, and you want to quickly create tests, you just hold Command Shift T, and then it creates a test one for every method in there. So you guys can try it if you're not aware. So yeah, that's it for me. Unit testing all the way. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? Okay. So thank you. So one thing that I would like to highlight from what everybody has said is that it differs from company to company. All right. Like depending on where you find yourself, you realize that the requirements is actually like different. You find yourself in a company that requires you to write unit tests and write tests. You find yourself you can also find yourself in a company that requires you to just write unit tests, and they say, don't worry, they have a tool that actually automates their UR testing for them. It's fine, but wherever you find yourself, try to ensure that you abide by the rules. Try to ensure that you are innovative. If you feel that there's anything not being done properly as regards testing, or there's a particular way you would actually, or there's a method that you actually like prefer and know that it's better to actually test your work items, feel free to mention it to management. Don't forget to add the testing to your timeline. Don't just say, oh, it's going to take me 2 hours to work on it. All right. If you know you need like 3 more hours to work on the testing, please add it to the timeline. I think I was a victim of that when I was working for Intel. We have a scoping section. He asked the iOS guy, how long will it take you to build it? He say 2 days. He asked me, how long? I say 6 hours. Like, I was getting kind of like, bro, I tested to this stuff. It was then I actually realized that, you have to like add it to your timeline. I mean, having SS time is better than not having time at all. All right. So I'm going to hand over to Shizoba, and I really want to thank everybody for contributing. And I actually hope that everybody enjoyed this section. Thank you.
Oh, drum rolls for Belvy. Thanks a lot to Belvy for giving us the honors, of hosting this or moderating this session. I hope it was from the poll. It looks like it was really interesting for everyone. I think there's just about 6 more persons that have not really taken the polls, and I'll really encourage you guys to help us just fill it up before you go. Yeah, I didn't add this question to the poll, but would you guys be interested in actually seeing like a live coding session of implementing some of these testing techniques and different things to check about when trying to do those things? Yeah, you can unmute yourself now and say yes or no randomly.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Such a unanimous yes. So Bell may trigger you again, but let's wait and see. Yeah. So awesome. Yeah, today was really great. Thank you guys for coming. Let's keep on seeing different ways we can share our learnings and survive in this community. Last question is, do we have any other contribution, any other contribution to this topic or contribution to the community of what you want or several other things before I say my last point and then we close?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
All right, yeah. So when Baby was talking about different type of tests, I think one just came to my mind, and it just came to my mind now. So there's another test called a stress test. So I don't know. Majorly, they call it a monkey test. So that one helps to just stress test the application on its own, whereby the I've forgotten the name of this very tool. So it does all the minimization, navigates through different parts of the screen, and also basically they call it a monkey or a stress test. So that test too is actually good for you to discover different things about your application. If it will crash, you will know from that point, and it takes maximum of maybe like 5 minutes to just run a test, open different part of your application, and then you're good to go. So you can check it out, stress test or a monkey test. Thank you.
Oh, now, wow.
All right, cool. Also,
I think this is exercise monkey.
Isaac, you're so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, just one more thing. So I'm thinking of us doing this for next month, right? And I want to share it and see how you guys think about it. So trying to see if next month we can do a challenge. It's going to be like a 30-day challenge. It's going to be something related to Android, more like maybe bring about one very crazy animation and say, hey, do this thing in custom view, and everybody does their different implementation, and then we can probably just sit down one time and then just share our work and maybe go through one. Somebody can just go through his work and see like the coding conventions, the why he did X, Y, Z better than this. I don't know if you guys are interested in challenges. Do you guys have time outside of work to also do like some other coding challenges?
Yay!
So it's just one person?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I'll be happy to be a spectator, Sha. I would love to learn. I would love to learn. No, but it's good. Good.
All these learners are liars. They know this thing.
We're all learning. We're all learning.
How about we make it something? Maybe one for a week. 30 days challenge will be every day. Some of us.
No. So it's not like when I say 30 days, it doesn't mean it's 30 different challenges. It's just one challenge for 30 days. So you have enough time to complete it.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's fun, but do we have the time to actually do it?
Yeah.
Man, I don't even know.
Just try.
So,
I think you have your answer.
I think like it's all about. Actually,
we can try.
We can try it. Weekends, Saturday. Time for
at least Saturday and Sunday. At least for the next 30 days.
All right.
Yeah, I have a suggestion though. I have a suggestion. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I have a suggestion on possible concepts or topics or stuff like that. I think we can do sessions on CI/CD as well, as it relates to Android, Circle CI. I mean, GitHub Actions, which is like free right now, and Fastlane and the other of those things that are out there. Someone can just do a session on that, walk us through some sample of how everything fits together. Personally, I haven't used CI/CD up to production level, but I've used it up to the point where I deliver builds to testers, really. Doing builds and generating reports and all that. So, I think it makes sense to do a session on general CI/CD with respect to Android.
Okay. Awesome. And like your feedback now, this is exactly what I want from everybody. If we can actually get everybody interested in like a particular set of things, the aim is actually to create like a series of all those things, right? And get people to walk us through these things. They're like a lot of things I have like ideas that we have planned, but we just need you guys' contributions of what are these things that you guys want to learn or we want to be able to discuss in the community just to know more, right? So CICD, I'm going to take note of it. I think I already know a speaker I can even contact for that. Yeah.
And also, hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I want you guys to also talk about styles and themes in Android.
Okay.
Yeah.
Confusing topic.
Styles and themes.
Yeah. That thing is still very tricky. Yeah. So
yes.
And also, if we can find a way, so if you guys can also meet like different things you want to learn, and then we may pretty much find correlations between most of these things. And the aim may be now to like create for the next 6 months, what we'll be talking about will be a series of talks that all link together. And so it's more like at the end, you're gaining an entire package, right? It's not just different varieties of talks, but like things that are a bit like a train that goes from one extent to another. And then, at the end, you've gotten an overall knowledge of a particular area. Because, for example, we've talked about architectures, but there's still more things to talk about architectures. This testing, we just did like a conversation. There's still like in-house, in-depth code challenges or in-depth writing of code for you to see more practical experience. So we're still doing like some high-level things that we could also gain more knowledge. but then we could do some deep, in-depth courses if we want. But then I need to know what everybody actually wants and if we'll actually be able to commit. Yeah, but like, cool. We'll keep on working for these suggestions till we find the perfect pipeline. But please don't hesitate to bring in your suggestions and also open up to speak. You must not be 10 years experienced person before you can come out to speak. As I said earlier on, as little feedback as possible. Even we have like different kinds of talks we want people to give that range from 5 minutes to 40 minutes. So basically, like, somebody in the talk once mentioned something that happened recently. Those are the type of things we want to hear about. Like, yeah, somebody mentioned Command, Shift, and C, right? Automatically generated test. Those things are very valuable things to make coding faster. These days, I tend to use my keyboard to navigate across my tabs. So I noticed the time moving my mouse is too long. So I just click on next, command options, next and right, left and right, and I switch between my Chrome tab. So some of these things, like, they may be little, but we want to hear about some of these things. Some of we can call them lightning talks, right? We also want to learn about some of these things so that we can actually learn faster. These are things that you may not really find on blog posts, or you may not even know about. So you cannot even say you want to go and Google them, right? So yeah, so those are the type of information that we want to share here and that can be valuable. And that's why we're doing it. Most times we're trying to focus on this conversational approach, because you may be able to get some of the knowledges that you have outside on blog posts and the rest, but then having it in the form of conversation gives you more exposure to several other things. Because of you're getting from like several persons and stuff. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I mean, this kind of talk directional, like direct to one another. Like, it feels like you're talking to your guy about what he experienced. You know, the same thing you are passing through. I mean, he's in your ecosystem, really. Like the first place I worked, I said something. I said I was the only mobile guy there. So you can imagine what that feels like. You are just on your own. You can't say nothing to anybody, you know, except it's a general technological question. There's nothing specific. You can't ask somebody if your button is, I mean, something, why your view model is behaving the way it is. What's going on with your live data object or something. You can't really do that. And then I joined the proper team, and then it felt so good to be amongst, I mean, to talk to your guys and stuff. So, I mean, this talk really works. It works.
Yeah. I could. Yeah. So if there's no other feedback, probably end the meeting. No other feedback? Is there any? Well, if you can't remember them now, feel free to DM me at any point in time or send an email. I will surely respond. Also, thanks a lot, everyone, for your time today. Thank you for coming to this meetup. Until next time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shilioba. Thank you, Belvi. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Isaac, I see you. Well done.
Stay safe. Stay safe. Stay safe.
Isaac, want to